Everybody hooked up? All right. At this time, I'm going to call the May City Council meeting for the city of Russellville open at this time, and I would ask Chaplain Comperu to come forward and lead us in prayer. Please rise and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Lord, I lift up the leaders of this great city as they discuss the business at hand. I ask for your guidance upon them and for your leading in their discussions. I pray for the continued unity and respect for each other and for the prosperity of the city of Russellville. I ask for the daily wisdom and guidance for the mayor in his everyday decisions. Grant him the discernment for the truth and the strength to walk uprightly. I lift up the men and women serving in our police and fire departments and their families. I ask you to protect them. As always, we want to remember our men and women serving in our military. Keep them safe and their families safe. It is in your name that we ask these things. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Welcome, everybody. And for those of you who are watching this on television, I will clarify what was going on. Our Finance Committee meeting ran a little bit long, and we are now starting the regular council meeting. We appreciate your understanding for that, and welcome to this lovely, cooler May than normal. So, at this time, do I hear a recommendation on the minutes from last month?
Move to adopt.
Second. All those in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. McCoy.
Mayor and Council, the finance report for April. Our general fund revenues were $1,307,101. And if you'll refer to your book, that's $87,000 more than last year at the same period. Just to let you know that we have started to recover. That's 3.73% above our year-to-date projections. Our sales tax receipts were $654,621. Franchise fees and permits were $509,285. Expenditures for the general fund, $987,765, 1.75% below our year-to-date projections. And we've received $247,340 more than expended. Street funds operation receipts were $174,463. That's 8% below our year-to-date projection. Sales tax receipts were $64,550. It's 3.3% below year-to-date projection. Our new half-cent sales tax, $43,511. Street fund operational expenditures are $225,411, 1.4% below year-to-date projections. Sales tax expense was $297,775, and there was zero capital expense. Economic development revenues were $10,467.36. $7,163 was the new sales tax. $3,304 for interest. Our expenditures were $1,004 for marketing. Capital assets revenues were $622,300. $465, that's interest. $515,910 was new sales tax. $82,161 was a grant refund. $23,763 was an insurance rebate. Expenditures, $14,363 to the City Corp. Currently, our balance is $1,539,229. Of that, the building fund is $349,242. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. McCoy?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let me share this. Mr. Clark became ill this afternoon and is not here to be able to make this report this evening, so we'll move past the department reports at this time, go to committee reports. Mr. Horton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Committee met twice, last Tuesday and tonight. Last Tuesday, the Finance Committee passed an appropriation for the Capital Assets Fund for an F-150 pickup to replace one that was totaled out. That's the Insurance Department passed through. And the second appropriation to replace a check that was deposited. It was just a budgetary move. The Finance Committee recommends both of those to the full council in the form of a motion.
You've heard the motion. All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, sir.
The third item of business from last week was authorizing the invitation to bid for solid waste services. And the Finance Committee passed that in the form of a motion.
All those in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Horton.
We met again tonight, Mayor. We passed a motion recommending allocation of certain funds for capital projects. I think everybody was here for that discussion and knows which ones we're doing. Those were recommended in the form of a motion also.
All those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
We passed two appropriations tonight, one for $25,000 it's a cost-sharing deal with the Corps of Engineers for the 205 project, and the other one was $310,000 passed through with City Corporation for the H and Parker projects. The committee recommends both of those in the form of a motion.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, my colleague, Mr. Tripp, is reminding me of a couple that I jumped over here.
That's all right. I was going to remind you.
I'm trying to get us caught up. We took too long in our meeting. Consideration authorizing the invitation to bid for solid waste. Did we do that?
Yes, we did.
I thought
Yes.
we did.
Yes.
Number one and number
But-
two.
But I did skip over the funds for the parking garage. We
Mhm.
did recommend that in the form of a motion.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
That brings us down to that last item.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, we discussed, we introduced Mr. David Hunt of Hunt Services of Jackson, Tennessee. He's the franchisee for the new Buffalo Wild Wings, and he has presented us with a proposal to develop the convention center site. The Finance Committee looked at and approved or recommends a memorandum of understanding to be signed with Mr. Hunt to let him begin developing a master development agreement that could move the convention center project ahead. The committee recommended that in the form of a motion.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Mayor, that is all we have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Horton. Mr. Stuber, do you have any personnel committee report?
Yes, Mayor, we have one item on the agenda. This is for to take a part-time employee and make him a full-time employee for the Parks and Rec Department for the remainder of the year. It facilitated that was, you know, Mac had a person to get injured and he's still off. And I think if Mac is here I think Mac is here, but I think it's gonna cost about $12,000. Is that right? Yes. So I'll make that in the form of a motion.
All right.
Second.
All right, we have a motion for the intern that will assist Mr. Hollis for the remainder of this year due to the injured employee.
That's $12,872.10.
All right.
Close.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of Mr. Stuber's motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Stuber. Anything else? All right, hearing none, we do have a request for reappointment of Mr. Blake Tarpley to another 2-year term to the Board of Adjustment that was unanimously approved by the Planning Commission. What is your pleasure, gentlemen and lady?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. At this time, I think this is a first, at least since I have been serving in this capacity, that we have had no old business on our agenda. So, considering that, new business number 1 is for the consideration of a resolution authorizing the destruction of old Recreation Parks Department records, recommended by Mr. Hollis and concurred by Mr. McCoy. What's your motion?
Motion to adopt. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? New business number 2, consideration of an ordinance establishing a City Recreation and Parks Commission for the City of Russellville, prescribing its duties, powers, and other things, outlining appointments and confirmation to the Parks and Recreation Commission that repeals 3 prior ordinances and a section of 1 at this time. This is a recommendation by Mr. Hollis, Parks and Recreation Department.
What does this do, Mac? Well, basically what it's gonna do is, these ordinances were never, and Trey, correct me if I'm wrong, of course, but none of these ordinances ever superseded the next ordinance, so all 4 ordinances still apply, and they're contradictory of each other, and they also need cleaned up to keep us doing what we should be doing. The only major changes in this ordinance that were presented to me were one of the ordinances names 4 non-voting members, and then, it names 3, but then it lists 4. So we took off the chairman of the planning commission, which in 34 years he's never been there, so I don't figure he's gonna start coming or he's gonna miss being there. And it removes a 1-year term of the junior auxiliary member. That we did that for about 2 years, and then we stopped. That position's never been a filled position. Those are the 2 major changes. Other than that, it's just cleaning them up.
Do I hear any motion to suspend the rules regarding this ordinance?
You did, Mayor. Motion to suspend the rules and read one time by title only.
Second that motion.
All right. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Smith.
An ordinance establishing a City Recreation and Parks Commission for the City of Russellville, Arkansas, prescribing its duties and powers, setting the number of commissioners and membership qualification, outlining appointment and confirmation to the Parks and Recreation Commission, repealing ordinance numbers 1332, 630, 1190, and Section 1 of Ordinance 1209. This ordinance, if passed, would establish the Recreation and Parks Commission. It would set about the duties and powers of that commission. It would establish the number of commissioners and also the number of ex officio commissioners. Sets up the time to meet. It also outlines the officers for that commission. It also establishes the Parks and Recreation Department, as was in two of the prior ordinances that this one is replacing. Prescribes the duties of that department and the director, and repeals all the other ordinances that are currently in existence.
Move we adopt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt. Is there any other discussion?
Mayor, I do have a little bit here. Did the Parks and Rec Commission consider this, take action on this? No. Okay. Was any thought given that you have some operating agreements with different organizations within the community that we lease our fields to, or however you want to word it? Is there anything in this that's going to give them a seat at the table?
They can always come to the meetings. Of course, the meetings are open to the public, but yeah, we've had them there before.
But they're not, this does not include them as part of the commission?
This does not include any certain groups, no.
Okay. What about the existing commissioners? Is this reset everybody?
No, it
How
does
does
not
this
affect
affect?
them. They're still, as far as I understand it, Mr. Smith can correct me, it affects none of the sitting commissioners in any way.
But the Parks and Rec Commission did not review this before it came to the council?
No, sir.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Would you read the roll, Ms. Clerk, please?
Mr. Stuger,
Yes.
Mr. Martin Irwin,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Richard Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Seth Irwin,
Yes.
Mr. Tripp,
No.
Ms. Freddie Harris. Yes. Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. At this time, we have several guests with us this evening that I would like to recognize. All are veterans and members of various veterans organizations within our city. And I would like, if they would, they're here with a certain mission in their heart and on their minds. Would you all please stand up and be recognized at this time? We would appreciate you. So give these folks a round of applause. Thank you. This next item is an item that has been bannered around through these organizations and by these organizations for a number of years, and they have come to the point of making a proposal to the city or a request of the city. So at this time, Mr. Heffley, would you state your name and organization, please?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council. My name is Bill Heffley. I'm the secretary for the River Valley Coalition, and my service organization is the Marine Corps League, Lake Dardanelle Detachment 1310. And I am accompanied by a lot of veterans tonight. Mr. Mayor already introduced everyone, so we don't have to do that again. But I would like to introduce Pat Stanley. She's the chair of the Military Coalition, and she's also the VSO. So, Patricia, stand up. And then Bob Molden is the vice chair of the River Valley Coalition, so Military Coalition. We have, in this valley, we have, in Pope County, we have 5,237 veterans. This is per the VSO account of 2012. The 2005-2009 indicated there were 5,182 veterans here. The local CBOC, that's the community-based outreach clinic, which is our veterans clinic, serves 2,300 veterans. The source for that is the clinic director there, Martha. We have, and this depends on which source you look at on the internet, but we have, one said 65 recognized cemeteries in Pope County. Another one says 169. We realize that there are probably, it's a great difference there, but a lot of these are real small cemeteries up in the mountains along the creeks. And almost without exception, these have tombstones dating back there indicating that people served in wars for the last 150 to 200 years. And the interesting thing about that is almost without exception, these veterans have ties to other human beings somewhere in the valley or somewhere in the form of, you know, family, wives, grandchildren, husbands, aunts, uncles, cousins, co-workers. That list goes on and on. And most of the folks in this room have at one time witnessed the tragedies that veterans experience, and also their successes, a lot of successes here. When the mayor asked for the veterans to stand up, we have veterans on the council, and I'd like to, for my edification, I'd like to have the veterans on the council stand up again, if you will, please. Most of you, or some of you, may have experienced, and I'm going to go through this really fast because I promised some of the guys that I wouldn't cry up here, but from time to time we experience as veterans knowing someone that actually never came back. There's a fellow from Russellville, his name is Don Morley. He has a grave here, but he's not here. We don't know where he is. There are several other veterans that kind of have the same experience. They're buried overseas, or we have no clue where they're buried, or if they're buried. The thing that seems to be common around here, and I think pretty much everyone, at least on television or at a funeral, and some of these guys go to funerals almost on a daily basis, if not a weekly basis, is the presentation of the flag to the widow or family member, the flag of the United States of America. And so, and this list goes on, and I won't mention any more because I don't want to embarrass myself by crying, but I would also have the city council crying, I'm sure. Tonight I'm here on the behalf of the Veterans Coalition, the River Valley Veterans Coalition. We have a twofold purpose. One is to make the council aware that we're seeking to establish a memorial dedicated to the veterans of the River Valley. We've discussed this extensively at our meetings in the past, and we feel that it's our duty to do this. It's out of respect for the council and out of courtesy to the council that we do this. We've had Betsy McGuire from Main Street, Russellville, attend our meetings, one meeting, and she had some ideas and some locations in that vicinity of the Depot Park downtown, and they might be worthy of some further discussion at some point. We're aware that there's a park, and it's named Veterans Park. We're also aware that not too many veterans go there. There's no ceremonies there. It's not centrally located, and if you have other questions about that, I would probably defer that to the chief of police. He's sitting here. So, the courthouse has a marker in front of it. It's in front of a very busy intersection. It's a very nice marker. We had a meeting yesterday. After the meeting, I went up there, and it was kind of like deja vu because it says something to the effect that Pope County residents recognize all veterans of all wars and honor them, and it's kind of an all-inclusive memorial there, and it's really nice. But it's like we've discussed. It's in the middle of that intersection, and there's no bench or anything to sit on. You can go by and read it and go on. But there's also a marker at the Old Gardner Junior High. I believe it has World War II veterans located on it. I'm not sure about that. I looked at it years and years ago. There's a possibility that it could be either relocated or replicated. We actually had someone go out and look at it. They said that there's a possibility that if you start messing with it, it would crumble, and that would be the end of it. But we can take pictures and replicate the thing if we needed to. We don't have a concrete location for the memorial, and that's the second item on our agenda. We're seeking suggestions and input in the process. I have talked to the county judge. I know some of this property that was mentioned by Betsy McGuire is county property, and and some of it's railroad property. There's other properties in town. Several other properties have been discussed for other things, but we want something that's kind of centrally located. Our goal is a memorial that represents our veterans, one that's highly visible and represents Russellville and the River Valley in a dignified manner and a respectful manner. We would like, we walked up the stairs tonight, but we would like something that's handicap accessible, parking that's close to it. An awful lot of our guys are in chairs or real close to being in chairs, and they have difficulty climbing stairs and that sort of thing. I realize we have an elevator here, but no, they're too manly and too macho to use them. We want a place where a person could go and kind of reflect on the meaning of freedom and the price that it extracts from the veterans. And with that, I know you guys would kind of like to see some ideas. I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Kimball for a few minutes, and then if you'll give me, Mr. Mayor, just 2 minutes after he talks, I can close this out.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Heffley.
Thank you. I have some pictures here that were taken of a Veterans Memorial in a small town in western Oklahoma, population 800. These pictures do not necessarily depict what we want to do, but it gives you an idea of what a small community, when it comes together, can accomplish. And I'll pass these along, and I'll continue my dissertation while they're being passed along in order to save time. The coalition, with the support of all veterans organizations, is asking for ideas and a location where outside displays of large military equipment and appropriate walls of honor can be placed. Names of local veterans and previous residents who become veterans can be easily found and viewed by anyone interested in seeing their loved ones, family members, relatives, ancestors, etc., recognized for their service. A well-planned and organized wall with names on each brick will make this possible. With these displays, we hope to attract tourists and add interest in the downtown area while honoring our veterans. With these displays, we hope to find a location where a building could be bought or built with plenty of adjacent room for large displays and convenient benches. This building could be used to enhance the Veterans Memorial in many ways. For example, a location to organize veterans events, or provide scheduled presentations for school children, or provide protection from the weather for valuable items, and so forth. That's all I have to say at this time. Any comments about those pictures? As I say, they're not necessarily a blueprint for what we would do, but they're similar. Those bricks were sold for $100 a piece, and the community, even though it was a small community, had no problem in raising that amount of money. If you'll notice on one of those pictures, it shows that a community club had provided one of the displays.
I did notice that there was a coincidence in those pictures, that one of those names was Alan Kimball. I found that to be just a great coincidence there.
Well, you probably can't tell from the display, but there's a whole row of Kimballs there, starting with World War I. And that could be promoted here within the Russellville area. I'm sure there are families who would like to have their names placed together with their relatives that have.
Do y'all have some, I mean, do you have some sort of, the beginnings of what it is you might like to have? Some specific type of memorial, or what the size, somewhere that gives us something to look at.
Thank you. To accomplish our purpose, we would need, or would like to have, I should say, quite a bit of space, because we would like to have the building there, or a building that I previously mentioned, and room for parking for tourists and other local persons who would like to view the displays. And as you notice, that entire display, even with the military weapons and the walls of honor, really does not require that much space. I might add that that space was donated by a classmate's father of mine who graduated the same time I did. So the space was donated, but the American Legion and the VFW clubs, together with civic clubs, were able to raise the amount of money that was necessary to build this monument.
I think, Mr. Irwin, right now, the primary thing would be to find a suitable site
That's correct.
for this, and then the plan would be developed if we could identify. And I think that's one of the things that the groups that are represented here tonight are concerned about, is the fact that we do have a Veterans Park as dedicated, but I think that they're less than happy with its location and so on that way. And
It's
they're
a lot
looking.
better than it used to be.
It is better, much better than it used to be, but they're looking for suggestions, I think, and possible recommendations from the council that can come back to them and see what we might can do along that line. Did I state that correctly, Mr. Kimball?
We're here tonight to ask for suggestions, not to ask for money, but to ask for suggestions. If you know of a place, an area that might be available, and it would provide the necessary space, we would certainly like to be aware of it, and we would like your help to try to talk to the individual who owns it and maybe work out a deal with them of some sort. It's ideas that we're looking for to help us.
So these pictures, Mr. Kimball, are all outdoor, but you're talking about housing something inside, or maybe inside and outside.
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit hard of hearing.
The pictures depict things that are outside, but what you're looking for is a building to house some kind of memorial, or do you want a combination inside and outside?
Thank you. Our combination would be desirable. In other words, we would like a display, something similar to what you see in the pictures, together with a building where we could meet and, as I said earlier, we could provide scheduled presentations for school children. And we can organize veterans events there. We really don't have such a location right now. And we would prefer that it be within the downtown area so that when it encourages tourists, when they see these displays, to stop and maybe spend some money here with some of the merchants. That location out there that is now called Veterans Park is not centrally located. In fact, I moved here in 1966, and it was several years before I knew there was a park there, and it was several more years before I realized it was called Veterans Park. So it really is not an appropriate location for what we're trying to do.
Any other questions for Mr. Kimball or any of the other members who are here? Ms. Cahoon, would you like to step forward, please? Would you please speak to the microphone, please, ma'am, so we can hear you?
I was wondering if this effort had any connection with the group that's trying to do a museum or...
I didn't hear.
I've been reading it.
She asked, I believe, was this in connection with the group that's trying to promote the museum, military museum in town? That's my understanding. There is no connection.
It was not our intention tonight to mention that subject, but since it's been brought up, I do have some comments in that regard.
Any other? Go ahead, Mr. Irwin.
I don't know I don't know that that comments are necessary, but I think actually I'm satisfied that we've got at least enough information to operate with if we know anything. if we
I do too.
anything. Downtown, somewhere in the downtown area be preferable, you think?
That's correct,
Okay.
yes. I think it would be beneficial to the city, the city itself, to bring in tourist interest into that area.
All right.
Does the lady still want to,
No, I think that was
We
the
just
only
dropped the
question.
subject?
That was the
Okay.
only question, Mr.
Good.
Kimball. Anybody, Mr. Heffley or any other members from this group? Anything else? All right, go ahead.
I think we took care of most of that. We just didn't want to surprise the council with, hey, we're building this thing and we need building permits and we're not here to ask for money or anything tonight. We just want to keep the council in the loop. And our next meeting is on June the 11th at the Seabach, and that's at 8 o'clock in the morning. If city council members would like to attend, that would be great. And on May the 26th, there's a Memorial Day celebration, 10 a.m. That's at Depot Park. And at that point, you will see the Depot Park transformed, although temporarily, into a very impressive memorial. And then it'll be all gone by about 12 or 12:30. So if y'all, I'd really like to see every council member there at that meeting. On behalf of the...
I'm
Yes, sir.
sorry, where's the meeting gonna be on the 11th?
On the 11th, it's at the Veterans Clinic, the Seabach.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Out behind the Lord.
I'm well familiar with it, yes.
Yes, sir, and if you can attend, or any member that can attend, it'd be great. We'd love to have you there, and gives you a little better handle on the various personalities that we are a coalition. We're comprised of a number of entities there that all are very opinionated, and so we have a good time. I see some of them are laughing, but probably the most opinionated ones in the group. So
Any other questions for Mr. Heffley on this topic?
Thank you for your time, and God bless America.
Well, glad we help you out.
Thank you very much, and thanks to all of you who came in support of this, and we hope to be able to move forward with a positive step in this thing. So, thanks again. All right, you're welcome. All right, new business number 4, consideration to change the date for the June council meeting due to municipal June 18th to 20 is the yeah. What is the? Somebody have a handy calendar?
I'm looking at one. 18, what are you asking, Mayor?
18 through 20 is municipal league meeting.
Okay.
Several of us will be there. We can move it to the following Thursday.
That's the 26th.
Is that suitable with everybody? We'll leave the agenda meeting at the same time as it normally would be. All right. Can I get a motion to approve that change?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to change the June meeting to 26th. Was that the correct date? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. New number 5, consideration of an ordinance to rezone property presently C2 to M1, located at 3014 East 17th Street, submitted by Mr. Scott Sanders.
Mayor,
Motion.
I move we suspend the rules, read one time by title only with a
Second.
short explanation from our attorney.
All right. We have a motion to suspend the rules, and you heard the remainder of that motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
An ordinance rezone certain realty in the city of Russellville, Arkansas, and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would rezone property located at 3014 East 17th Street as further described by the attachment labeled Exhibit A that is currently C2 to M1.
Move we adopt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please read the roll, Ms. Clerk.
Mr. Stuber,
Yes.
Mr. Martin Irwin.
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Richard Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Seth Irwin,
Yes.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Ms. Freddie Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Your Honor, I'd make a motion to adopt the emergency clause.
Second.
We have a motion to adopt the emergency clause and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? On that, please read the roll, Ms. Clerk.
Mr. Martin Irwin.
Yes.
Mr. Horton.
Yes.
Mr. Richard Harris. Mr. Seth Irwin.
Yes.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Ms. Freddie Harris. Mr. Stuber,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. New number 6, consideration of an ordinance to rezone property presently C2 to R3 located at various addresses on South Oswego Avenue, submitted by Mr. Scott Sanders also. Planning Commission unanimously recommended. Do I hear a motion in regard to this ordinance?
I move we suspend the rules and read one time by title only with an explanation from our attorney.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
An ordinance rezone certain realty in the city of Russellville, Arkansas, and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would rezone property located at 1305, 1307, 1309, 1311, 1313, and 1315 South Oswego Avenue, Russellville, Arkansas, that is currently zoned from C2 to R3.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Read the roll, Ms. Clerk.
Mr. Martin Irwin.
Yes.
Mr. Stuber,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Richard Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Seth Irwin.
Yes.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Ms. Freddie Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Move we adopt the emergency clause.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the emergency clause. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please read the roll.
Mr. Stuber,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Martin Irwin.
Yes.
Mr. Richard Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Seth Irwin.
Yes.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Ms. Freddie Harris. Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. New business number 7, consideration of an ordinance amending the solid waste ordinance for the city of Russellville, ordinance number 2052.
Your Honor, I'd make a motion we suspend the rules, read one time by title only with a short explanation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Attorney?
An ordinance amending the solid waste ordinance for the city of Russellville, Arkansas, ordinance number 2052 to conform with changes made in the proposed solid waste agreement and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would bring the solid waste ordinance, the current one, would amend it, which is 2052, so that it would conform to the changes that were made to the new solid waste agreement that is to be bid out.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Excuse me. We have a motion and a second to adopt. Any discussion?
I would just add that there are very few changes that align this contract with this ordinance with the contract, and they're plainly stricken here. They're plain to see.
All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please read the roll, Ms. Clerk.
Mr. Martin Irwin.
Yes.
Mr. Stuber,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Richard Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Seth Irwin,
Yes.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Ms. Freddie Harris. Yes. Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion to adopt emergency clause.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and we're going to adopt an emergency clause. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please read the roll.
Mr. Martin Irwin,
Yes.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Richard Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Seth Irwin,
Yes.
Ms. Freddie Harris. Yes. Mr. Stuber,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I don't believe that there was any request to speak on any items tonight, so
Motion to adjourn, Your Honor.
Second.
adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening.
I might as well stay all night. Did I tell you the story about the print press? Just getting it all lined out. Had a little scare, they couldn't find Grandma's insurance policy.
Yep.
Thank God you found it.